Great. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces on attending the webinars this year. Dion, yes, I can see you. Now, I would like to welcome you all to the Cooperative Amendment Act. As you all know, my name is Shani Kelly, and I am the facilitator of this program. Okay, I'm working with the Corporate Education and Compliance Unit of CIPC, and we hope that today's presentation will be thought-provoking and that each of our participants will gain new knowledge. Today's webinar will be recorded. Therefore, I really need you all to have your mute buttons on. Today's webinar will be recorded, so as soon as the recording is available, it will be uploaded on the CIPC website. So if you do not get to understand everything today, you can listen to the recordings, and be able to email me any questions that you have. Right. We'll have a question and answer session after the presentation. You are welcome to post the questions on the chat function of MS Team during the presentation. Now, we have a team that's available that will be able to answer your questions, but if we missed your question, you are welcome to ask me the questions again afterwards. Okay, we'll post a link on the chat for you to complete a small survey, a short survey for feedback regarding this webinar. Your feedback is important to me, or you can also fill in the survey and email it to me if you do not have time during the presentation to complete it. But before we start today's presentation, I would ask you all to please switch off your mics, because I see there's a lot of people that's still unmuting themselves. Okay. Please switch off your mics to prevent background noise. Your questions and answer sessions, then you can unmute yourself, ask me the question, and mute yourself again. You can also raise your hand, use the raise your hand icon that's on the top side of your screen, and I will ask you or unmute you to ask your question. Lastly, please switch off your cameras. This draws a lot of attention to the persons instead of your focusing on my presentation. It also increases the data uses of everyone present and also influence the quality of the broadcast. So some people that have a poor data facility will not be able to see the presentation as clearly if a lot of the audience's video camera is on. Okay, the program today is going to be, I'm going to do the facilitation, and then my senior manager, Alma Pinkham, will do the presentation of Co-operative Amendment Act. I'm going to just tell you a small introduction of CIPC. CIPC was brought into existence by the Companies Act of 2008. In terms of Section 185.1 of the Companies Act, the Commission is established as a juristic person to function as an organ of the state within the public administration, but as an institute outside the public service. The CIPC website or team consists of the CIPC, the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, the Business, Corporate Regulations, Companies, Co-ops and CCs, Intellectual Property, that's the innovation and creativity. We have the patents, design, trademarks, and copyright. CIPC's objective: registration of companies, cooperatives, intellectual property rights, and the maintenance thereof. Disclosure of information on its registers enforcement of the relevant legislations, promotion of education and awareness of company and IP law, licensing of business rescue practitioners, monitoring compliance with and contravention of the financial reporting standards and making recommendations thereto. Reports, research, and advise the Minister on matters of national policies relating to companies and IP law. The services that CIPC offers. We reduce administrative compliance burden, maintenance a reputable business and IP environment. 24/7 CIPC services are available through our modernization of processes through automation. That means we are fully automated and everything can be, and almost all our services can be done online. We have an increased access channels. Channels are the self-service centers, our partner sites, which are the SST terminals, self-service terminals, the e-service websites, BIS portal, our mobile app that we have, which you can download from Google, our USSD, social media, our call centers, and even our banks. Compliance, monitoring and enforcement, annual financial statements, and annual returns filing, simplified through automation. We focus on education and awareness, trademarks, according to the Madrid cost-effective international filings, reduce new application and renewal fees available to SMMEs when IP fees adjustments takes effect. Patents, Innovator Assistance Program. There's a link for you to access the program, our IP trade portal, and our IP SMME toolkit. Okay. Let's get ready for our presentation with Elma. As I said, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to communicate to me, please do it through our chat facility. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well today. I again want to ask that you remember to keep yourself muted. We will try to do it here as well, but sometimes it seems even though we do it, the system fails us. And furthermore, we ask that people keep their cameras off, please, because we want to concentrate here, please. To give you a better idea about today's webinar, we will be speaking about the Cooperatives Act of 2005 that has been amended with the Cooperatives Act Amendments Act of 2013. And the Amendments Act have now to be read with the 2005 Act. The reason being, the Amendments Act only contains the amendments. It doesn't show the full Act. And the new regulations and principles of good governance replace the previous regulations. All of these documents are available on our website. The purpose of today's presentation is to provide basic information on matters that are related to CIPC processes and functions. It is important that the members and management of every cooperative studies the Act, regulations, and the principles of good governance. And I'm just repeating, it is available on our website under legislation. This presentation is divided into two parts. The first part will be about some of the changes to the Act, and the second part will be more practical on the forms and fees, and a little bit on the principles of good governance. So, looking at the Amendments Act, we will be looking at the aims of the Act, the categories of cooperatives, voting rights, and annual submissions. to give just a few pointers on the aims of this Amendments Act. There is this act because we wanted to provide for the distinction between different sizes of primary co-ops, which is when we refer to categories, that's what we're talking about. And it's done in order to make compliance less costly for small cooperatives. There are different requirements in terms of the categories for accounting, review and audit for annual submissions for the different categories of cooperatives. It wants to promote the sustainability of cooperatives. It makes provision for a national apex cooperative. It provides for more requirements in terms of the constitution that the co-op has to comply to, as well as may comply to. For instance, you may now have associate members. These are temporary members that support a cooperative or benefit from the cooperative. And they may also be appointed as executive directors who will not be having voting rights. And then there's new definitions, and one of them is for the registrar. Previously, the registrar was the registrar of cooperatives who was the head of a cooperatives unit. Now, the Act refers to the commissioner of CIPC. If we can look at the categories, the Act makes provision that only primary co-ops gets divided into categories A, B, and C. All secondary, tertiary co-ops and national apex basically falls under category C. But these secondaries, tertiaries, and the national apex have their own annual fees. The categories are used to determine, for instance, members' voting rights, and the voting rights may differ between members of category C cooperatives. Documents to be submitted to CIPC annually differs, and as I said, the fees differ. That is the amounts that are specified in the regulations. A and B cooperatives have a system of one member, one vote. So every member is equal in their votes. But category C primary, as well as the secondary, tertiary co-ops and apex, one must remember that voting rights always add up to 100%. So if you put all your voting rights of all the members together, you get 100%. And to find out how much voting right a specific member has, one can look at the number of members and you divide the 100 between the number. And in this instance, the example we're giving is if there's only 5 members, you would divide 100 by 5, and it will mean each member then have 20% votes. But now, in the case of category C co-ops, they may make provision in their constitution for additional voting rights for some of the members. And what applies here is that if a cooperative have got 3 members, then 1 or 2 members may have up to 40% of the votes, and this will influence the other member or 2 members that remain. It will decrease the voting rights. And then if you have 4 members, you may have up to a maximum of 30% for members. For 5, it's 25% maximum. And for if you're more than 5, not more than 17% of the total voting rights. These things has to do with bigger co-ops that often find that some of the members do more business with them, and that it could imply, for instance, that they use or they are responsible for more of the capital in the cooperative. And because of that, sorry, I just want to see if I can just manage this quickly. Just want to mute everybody again. Okay. Sorry, just to go back for a second again to the voting rights of Category C. This is to make provision for bigger cooperatives where one or more of the members then do more services, and it will mean they're using more of the equipment of or of the services of a cooperative, and they usually bring more capital into the co-op to make provision for this. And then therefore they also want more voting rights. So it's up to the Category C co-op to see whether they'll allow for this. Then we're going to be looking at the annual submission requirements for cooperatives. Here one must look at the category the co-op falls within, and then you will know which forms and financial statements as well as reports must be submitted and by whom it has to be completed. On a Category A co-op, they must every year after the annual general meeting submit a Co-op 7 and a Co-op 8 form, as well as for financial statements they complete a Co-op 15.1 and the annual report, and it must be done by the directors. And then just trying to get that background noise out, sorry about that. So Co-op A, Category A co-ops do not need to get somebody like an accountant or auditor to do their documents. Their directors can do it. And then Category C is exactly the same with the exception of a financial statement. That is Form 15.2 that must be completed. And as I said, everything can be done by the directors. Category B, over and above Co-op Form 7 and 8, they must also submit a Co-op 4, and the financial statements must be done by an independent reviewer, that is an accountant, and they submit those statements to CIPC. And then Category C, as well as your secondary, tertiary, and the national Apex co-op, must also complete a Co-op 4, 7, and 8, and they submit audited financial statements, which are being done by the auditor. And one must just note, with all of the reports that are submitted, I think it includes a bit more than just the forms and the financial statements, but we're getting there. As far as record keeping is concerned, people must be aware that the cooperatives must always keep records at their registered office. These records include your accounting records, which must include all business transactions with members and non-members. The co-op must keep a constitution and any rules they have, as well as amendments thereto. The minutes of general meetings and director meetings must be kept. If a co-op has a supervisory commission, they must keep the minutes of their meetings. They must have a list of members, like a register of members with all their details, then a register of directors, and a register of directors and employees' interest in contracts and undertakings. This is a lot of information, and it would be good if co-ops can look at the Act for more details, especially on matters like the list of my members and directors, because it gives more details of what must be kept in those registers. Then accounting records and financial statements must be kept for at least 5 years, or a longer period if determined so by the minister. At the moment, it's 5 years. A cooperative or director who fails to comply with record-keeping requirements is guilty of an offence. We can then look at the definitions of all of these different reports that must now be submitted. For the Category A primary co-ops, a document prepared by the Board of Directors is submitted. It's a financial statement, it's a social report, and a management decisions report. And the social report is a report by the board that assesses the social impact and ethical performance of a cooperative in relation to the stated vision, mission, and goals stated in the Constitution. The Management Decisions Report is a report by the Board of Directors that assesses the Co-op's compliance with all legal requirements and requirements in its Constitution. And then the independently reviewed report, that's category B. It is a report by the independent reviewer that examined and evaluated the financial statements. It's also a social report and a management decisions report. An independent reviewer means an accounting officer in terms of a Close Corporations Act, and a registered auditor or a member in good standing in terms of Section 33 of the Auditing Profession Act. So one can also get an auditor if a cooperative really wants to appoint an auditor, but it is not necessary. Category B primary co-op can appoint an accounting officer. And then getting to a category C primary, the secondary, the tertiary, and the national apex co-ops, they need an audited report, and an audited report is obviously by an auditor after years examined and evaluated the financial statements, the social report, and the management decisions report. So the definition mentioned here at the beginning for primary co-ops in level A for social report and management decisions report also applies to them. And then getting to annual general meeting, co-ops must always remember to have this meeting every year. And for a newly registered co-op, their first AGM must be held within 18 months of the registration of a co-op. And for subsequent AGMs, it must be held within 6 months of the end of a preceding financial year. A co-op must circulate the applicable reports that we spoke of on the previous slide to all the members at least 14 days before the AGM. So at the time they send out a notice to members, they include these reports. The AGM must discuss the report in order to take decisions on the future conduct of the business of a cooperative. The chairperson must accept the reports and sign acceptance and implement the decisions taken. Then, very important for CIPC, the board must within 15 days submit a copy of the reports to the CIPC, accompanied by the outcome of the AGM decisions and consideration thereof to CIPC. If a AGM resolves to delay the submission to CIPC, the chairperson must notify CIPC within 15 days of a resolution of the reasons for the delay and the action it will take to address the situation. Then if we can speak about the regulations and the principles of good governance. First of all, regulations provide for procedures and rules according to which an act is applied. The Minister of Small Business Development published cooperative regulations and principles of good governance on 18 April 2019 in the Government Gazette. We give you the number if you want to ask the Government Gazette to give you a copy, you'll ask for that number. And the regulation include fees in Schedule 1 and forms in Schedule 3. Then the regulations and principles of good governance also repealed the regulations provided for in Section 95 of the Act, as it was promulgated under the Government Gazette Notice 366 of 30 April 2007. So the 2005 Act had regulations, these were repealed and they now replaced with regulations as well as principles of good governance. Now, if we look at the principles, I'm not going to be speaking about principles themselves that people must study, but all cooperatives must now comply to these principles. Reference is made to the principles in Section 3, paragraph 6 of the Act. Matters contained in the principles include information on the identity of cooperatives, that is the values and the principles by which cooperatives function. Aims of principles are to assist cooperatives to practice good governance, improve the quality of cooperative leadership. This refers to directors and the managers of a cooperative, to ensure compliance with the cooperative constitutional legal requirements, provide checklists to ensure compliance to legal requirements, emphasize transparency and accountancy as keys to good governance. It provides fundamentals of good governance and enables members, directors and managers to carry out their own roles and responsibilities. As you can see, it does say we provide, or the principles provide for checklists to ensure compliance and legal requirements. In other words, if you go to these principles, you will find these checklists and you can go and tick off and compare to what your cooperative is doing, whether you are complying to the Act or not. Then if we're going to be looking at the form, there's a long form index. It's in Regulation Schedule 3. I'm not going to read through this because, as I say, it's a long list. One must just take note that Co-op 5, which is about the name reservations, this is done online with CIPC, and it can at the moment still be done on e-services, but we'll also speak on doing it on the new K2 system. The one form that is very important for us to explain, because so many people do not know how to complete it, and it is something that the Co-ops unit receive regularly. Co-op 6.1 is a special resolution for amendments to the constitutions. So if a Co-op decides to change their constitution, they will have either do it at a general meeting or special general meeting. They will take a special resolution to amend it, and then they must submit the Co-op 6.1 form to CIPC. And it's important, I'm going to show you what the form looks like, but one must note, one must state what are the sections that are changed. If there are any deleted, you say which ones are deleted. If new ones are added, you say which ones are added. And you give an exact wording of every new section. And then you will pay a fee for the changes per section. You pay 17.50 Rand with a maximum of 125 Rand. The 125 will then be from the 8th section you're amending. So if you only amend one section, you only pay 17.50 Rand. If you pay a second one, you pay twice 70.50, etc. until you get to the 8th one. If you do more than 810 or another number, then it remains at 125. One can just also note that previously there was only one special resolution form. This one have now been replaced, as you can see, with different forms. So if a Co-op decide to amalgamate with another Co-op, they must use Co-op 6.2 and so forth. Then there's an even longer list continuing here from Co-op 7 to Co-op 15.2. These also include the certificates, like the certificate of registration of a cooperative. We will be sending the presentation to people who attended, and we will also post it on our website. So I'm not going through it, but you can go and study the list if you want to know more about which numbers, which name, and what it's for. This is just an example of a 6.1 form. First of all, you complete the name of a Co-op and you complete the registration number. Then you must complete the date of your meeting where you agreed on the changes, and you must also attach your notice of your meeting that you sent out, and it must be clear that you actually gave the numbers and the wording to your members to study before they came to the meeting. So on the form itself, it's not calling it a section, it's calling it a clause that you complete. I just used examples. So I said here perhaps clause 10 is being deleted and clause 25.3 is amended. Then you will again show clause 10 just deleted, and clause 25.3 is where you can write the wording. But take this note, complete the exact wording as it will read once registered, and usually it's too long for these few lines that are shown on the form, so you can give a page or even pages attached with the exact wording. The form then gets signed by a director, the secretary, a manager, or one of the co-op officers, and it's dated. Then the rest of the form is completed by the co-op's unit once the co-op gets registered. It might look a bit different from the form itself, I'm not sure, but you will get something that shows that it is registered. If we can then continue, we're going to be speaking about registering a co-op. But first of all, you need to know who can register a co-op. So if you want to register a primary co-op, in terms of Co-ops Act 2005, before it was amended, you had to have 5 natural persons. But the amendment now also allowed 2 juristic persons and a combination of any 5 of these. So for instance, 2 natural and 3 juristic, or 4 natural and 1 juristic. Then secondary co-ops, you need 2 or more operational primary co-ops. Tertiary, you need 2 or more operational secondary co-ops. And now you also have a national apex, and there you need 3 operational sectoral tertiary co-ops that operate nationally, and 5 operational multi-sectoral tertiary co-ops that operate on a provincial, district or local level. It is important to take note that the secondary co-op, a tertiary co-op, and the national apex co-op, their members must be operational, and the term operational means a cooperative that has held its annual general meeting and has submitted its annual report or its auditor's report or independently reviewed report to CIPC in the last financial year. So one cannot, for instance, register a secondary co-op with 2 primary co-ops that are newly registered and have not complied to the definition of operational. Okay, and then the fees payable. Fees payment methods depend on the system utilized for the transaction. Now, first of all, there's the system of customer code and password, which have been in place for many years at CIPC. It's used both on e-services, which only have name reservation service for co-ops at this point. And then there's the manual or emailed applications that you send to the co-ops unit, where you also require to have a customer code and a password. You may be aware, but in case you're not, it serves as your code serves as a bank reference with payments of a prescribed service fees. Before applying for a service, the fee must be deposited into the CIPC banking account, and it's also used to log into the e-services system. The system will be phased out as services are moved from e-services to the K2 system, which is also known as new e-services. So this system won't last forever, but for the time being it is still available. However, should you then prefer to use the K system, it works with a banking account and not a customer code. So your transactions will require that you have a debit or a credit card. You complete the information for your applications on the system, you submit, and you later do your payment. If we then look, if you want to register a cooperative, at the moment you still have the option to email your manual application to the unit, or you can, from 1st of March, start using the K2 system. It's a new registration system. It applies to name reservation and registration of primary co-ops. It will simplify and fast-track the registration process. Applications may now be submitted online by customers that use new e-services on our website. The services will be available 24/7. Should you, however, still want to make use for the time being of a manual application, the forms you must submit is a COP 1. It was previously known as a CR1. It still looks very much the same. You must still submit a constitution, but only the pages that are completed, as well as the last page signed by all the members. You must have a certified ID copy of all the applicants, which is certified and not older than 3 months. And you must still do a name reservation on the on the CIPC website at e-services before you can apply. However, as of 1st of March, as I said, there's now a K2 system. And if you want to make use of it, it's only for primary co-ops. And then you must do both the registration and the name reservation together on the K2 system. You cannot do a name reservation under e-services and then go and do the co-op registration on new e-services. It won't work. Now, to do it on new e-services, you go to the website to online transacting, you click on it and you will have different options. You choose new e-services. Then what one must also know is that if you use it for the first time, and you do have a customer code, you will be logging in with the email address that is linked to your customer code profile, as well as the password you used for your customer code. However, if you do not have a customer code, you will first register on new e-services as a user, and you will use your email address and you will create a password. Please keep these, the address and the password that you remember. If you need to use it in future, you can use it again. All payments, as I said, is made by bank card only. Members must be having a certified ID or password copies. Certification, as I said, with the manual ones as well, not older than 3 months. Both sides of a smart ID card must be copied on the same page. Every member must have their own email address. This is something new and very important. So for every member, there will have to be an email address you're going to complete, and each one must have their own one. You can't use one address for 5 different members. You must keep your own constitution safe with the co-op records for reference purposes. And the CIPC will not return a copy of a constitution once you registered. We will only return, like we did in the past, the last page with the signatures. To show you the steps you will follow on the new e-services or K2 system, you will start at the top. You have to capture your name for name reservation. You will have to pay your 50 Rand on the same day and submit your application. And once it is reserved, you can continue. Then you're going to go to co-op registration. You will capture your details and you must please check correctness. It is because people complete their own details that it will also assist to make this type of, or the K2 system applications faster for registration, because otherwise, like with the manual ones, our staff have to type everybody's details, and the problem there is most people's handwritings are terrible and it takes a long time, and there can be a lot of typing errors as well, which should not happen on the system as the people type their own details. After capturing this information and checking the correctness, you will upload the IDs and you'll submit the application. Then you will be sent a form with the members' details, directors' details, and the constitution. You will then sign the form. Everyone will sign the form and the last page of the constitution. You will again upload these forms once signed in PDF format, and there must only be one attachment with all these documents. Once you've done that, the application will go through to the CIPC back office, and they will check the application for compliance, and on their side have it like a preliminary approval. it should be mentioned that in case the application is incomplete, it will be returned to the unsubmitted application queue, logging to check in case you don't get your certificate, and you will find the problems and you can rectify them and resubmit. It will mean that you won't need to pay a second time for the registration. You will be able to continue because only once you get an email that tells you that your co-op's application have been approved, then you have to do the payment of 125 Rand. A co-op will have up to 30 days to do the payment. And only once the payment is received, the co-op will be finally approved and registered, and then you will also receive your registration certificate and the last page of the Constitution by email. Note, like before with name reservations, if you do not get a name reserved, you will have to reapply and again pay the 50 Rand. That stays the same, but with the application itself, as I said, if there's a problem, they will let you know, you can fix it and then only do the payment. Things one must remember, because we're giving this because many people don't know the rules about co-op name reservations. It is important that a proposed name must not be the same or so similar to an existing co-op name that it may be misleading. It must not be undesirable, prohibited, deceivable, or misleading. The name of a cooperative, if registered before the commencement of the Cooperative Amendments Act 2013, must contain the words cooperative or co-op, and then it must end with limited or LTD as the last word, unless the Constitution does not limit the liability of its members. I very much doubt there's really co-ops like that. But in case you register a co-op at this point in time, which is after the implementation of the Co-op Amendments Act 2013, then the co-op's name must end with the words co-op limited or co-op LTD. Only the national Apex co-op may use the word Apex as part of its name. It's important to note because in the past, tertiary co-ops could also call themselves Apex. They cannot do so anymore. Then the name of a co-op must always be displayed in legible letters on all contracts, invoices, letters, places of business, anywhere where they're doing business. It must be clear that it is the specific co-op. And then when we get to the annual submissions, included in the regulations are the forms used for application, the certificate formats, and annual fee amounts payable to CIPC. The Act, regulations, and principles of good governance are available on the CIPC website under legislation. I think it's the third time I'm saying this, so it should tell you how important it is to go and study these documents. You can visit our website regularly to see whether there are any new notices which informs customers about new developments and requirements, such as the date for the implementation of the annual fee payments. At the moment, co-ops are not yet paying annual fees, but it will be implemented sometime in the future, probably within a few months or the next year. So please keep your eye on our website regularly for notices. The fees will differ from the amounts being paid for companies as well as for closed corporations. The reason being, every one of these different kind of businesses have their own acts with their own regulations which specify what the fees are. So it's not the same for all businesses. Then references is made to the annual revenue. This means the gross value of economic benefits received by a cooperative as a result of its ordinary activities in a financial year. The projected annual revenue, this is for new co-ops who have not yet done financial statements before. It will mean its estimated gross value of the economic benefits that are likely to be received by a newly registered cooperative. If we can then just look at the annual fees, once it becomes implemented. Your Category A co-ops, they're very small co-ops. They are co-ops that have an annual revenue of less than R1 million, will have to lodge within 30 days their R50, and then that's 30 days after, I think, the date of registration every year. And then if they lodge late, they will have to pay an additional R100 penalty. Co-ops on level A2, their annual revenue is between R1 million or then more, up to R10 million. And their fees is R50 as well and R100 penalty. However, getting to Category B, the primary co-op will have a revenue of more or equal to R10 million, but less than 25 million. They will pay R450 and then a penalty of 600 in case they pay late. Annual revenue for Category C primary co-ops, if it's more or equal than 25 million rand, they will pay R3,000 and a penalty of R4,000. Then, as made, I think I mentioned very early on in the presentation, your Category C for secondary, tertiary, and national apex co-ops, the amounts for the fees differ. If you have a revenue less than 25 million, you will pay 450 and a penalty of 600. And in case you have a revenue of more than 25 million, then you pay 3,000 and if necessary a penalty of 4,000. If we then get to queries, I know many people are going to have queries. With CIPC, preferably you should log your query on the website. You find the query resolution system, or QRS as we call it, under inquiries. On our homepage there is like a button, it's white and orange, and I think inquiries is in black, written in black. So please click there, go in, you need a customer code, and go and complete your query, and the Co-op unit will get back to you. If you submit applications, for the moment you can still submit your manual application. For Co-op registration, you do so, you send it to the cooperatives online at cipc.co.za email. If you submit a Co-op 2, it was previously a CR2 for directed changes, you send it to Co-op 2 at cipc.co.za. And then all all Co-op 6 forms, different forms, for special resolutions such as your amendment of constitution or amalgamation, all of them get sent to Co-op 6 at cipc.co.za. Then you also have your Co-op 3 and Co-op 4 forms for changes of your business address or phone number and appointment or changes of directors and independent reviewers. It gets sent to Co-op 3 and 4 at cipc.co.za. And may I just mention, it is letter N between 3 and 4, AN between 3 and 4, it's not AND. Okay, with that, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. And Shani, I think we can give people an opportunity to perhaps now ask their questions.
Great stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much, Alma. And thank you guys for all the questions on the chat. As I said earlier, please let me know if you please let me know if any of your questions that you have put on the chat has not been answered. I will try my best. Can you all hear me?
No.
Okay, great. So please continue putting your questions on the chat. The team is available and they will assist with the responses. If you don't get it, let me know. I see there's 3 hands that are raised. That's awesome. Okay. To Mele, unmute yourself, please, and then ask me your question.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you for the informative presentation. I just want to check, I've recently been online to try and do an application on the new system, right? But however, I need your assistance in terms of how do one make the reservation online? Because when I was trying to do it on the new system, the part that says log in, it was hidden off. So I could not then access that one. But now if it would be nice if you were going to be able to take us through that process, because if it says that I must do a reservation of the name, do I reserve a reservation of the name separately on the e-services under the PTY Ltd and incorporate the co-op name? And then after that has been reserved, then I then upload the documents? Or can I do everything in one go in the system, in the new system? Thank you.
Okay, Dumile, there is a Notice 8 available on the website which explains these matters, but I may just mention that it is in our presentation, you might have missed it, that if you want to use the K2 system, the new e-services, you must do both name reservation and co-op registration on this system. So you cannot split them. You cannot go and do name reservation on e-services and then do co-op registration on the new e-services. The system will not allow you. I think there is a bit of a problem with the system at the moment, but it should be fixed by latest 1 March. So I don't know if there's anybody from IT here who could say something from their side. I'm not sure. What I want to mention, you did ask for, like, if I understand correctly, like a type of a demo. We are planning to have, first of all, at least one webinar before, I think the 25th. It's probably going to be around the 23rd of February. So just about the K2 system. So I think you must, as I said, keep your eyes on our website. There will be a notice published for that webinar. And we are also planning to record a demo and to put it on our website that people can download it and they can look at it time and time again as they need it to assist them. I hope that answers your question. Then, if I may ask, the next person has the name Peace. Peace, you're welcome to unmute yourself and to ask your question.
Yep. Hello. Hello. Yep. Hey, everyone. Hey. Hello. Yep.
Sorry, it seems we're not hearing Peace. May I just mention we are having problems here on our side a little bit, so you won't be seeing a slide at the moment. You might be seeing some people's faces who have their cameras on, although we asked they mustn't put them on. But can I ask, Peace, if you can hear me now, please ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, on my side, I just want to ask on the issue of the apex body. The Act requires that we establish only one apex body, which will cater for all cooperatives in the country. In 2012, I think it was on 6 August, DSPD together with CIPC made a presentation, a workshop regarding this part, and we're told to coordinate all tertiary cooperatives in order to establish the body, and CIPC and DSPD will be supportive. They will incubate the tertiary cooperatives and they'll assist in the establishment of the apex body. Does that still stand as it was resolved on 2012?
Perhaps I know nothing of this matter. I don't know, Letty. I see you on. I don't know if you know about this and have an answer. You'll just first have to unmute yourself, please. Letty. Letty, I don't know if you're hearing me, or Mabusi. If either of you have an answer for us, perhaps. Okay, I think we'll have to come back about that one. It seems they're not responding right at this point. So I must admit, I know nothing about this. I'm not working in the co-op unit. If I could also say that I noted that Letty put a chat here on the chat function where she did say that one must look at the notice 54 that says new e-services is to start is a start-end process, meaning customer register there as a user, but do name reservation and then primary co-op registration. So I think she's just repeating some of what I've said. But if we can then continue with a question, sorry, I want to ask Lawrence, are you next? If you can ask your question.
Thanks very much, Kelly. My question is around the implementation of the Act itself. I can see that at a more administrative part, the CIPC is actually moving quite well. But I wanted to check in terms of the other bodies that were supposed to be established, like the Cooperative Development Agency, the Tribunal, as well as the Cooperative Advisory Council. I'll also mention in passing the Cooperatives Academy. It was not entailed in the Act because of where it rests, because education rests with higher education and so on. But obviously, we still need to see coordination around that part, because from the cooperative sector, we're saying it's a critical component, and therefore needs to be seriously considered and so on. So I just wanted to check how far are we in terms of all those, because they are part of the Act, and obviously government and its agencies have got a responsibility to actually ensure that those ones are implemented. Can I come in? Yes.
Okay, I don't know if Letty perhaps or Mabusi have got any answers. They can unmute themselves. Or even Aubrey. These bodies are separate from CIPC, so CIPC I don't think will be responsible at all for forming or establishing these bodies. I think it will be with the Department of Small Business. So I'm not sure whether we are supposed to answer on this. Can I just ask again, anybody from the co-ops unit, do any of you have an answer?
Cheryl Kelly?
Yes, I'm here.
Cheryl, my name is Mr. Bare. I'm sorry, I'm using my colleague to be part of the process. I wanted to check, Cheryl, that I understand you are representing and speaking on behalf of the CIPC, and seemingly it looks like a number of the detailed in terms of the Act ownership that the legislation is with the Department of Small Business. That from the look where we are, we might be wrong, please pardon us and then guide us, that is it possible that we have a tripartite meeting, the same like visual like this one, wherein we could have yourself, CIPC, small business as the owner of the legislation, as well as the unity co-op, so that you would understand that in terms of the Act itself, you might have done your part, but in terms of the implementation, is done with the department, so that when we approach this matter, we are not necessarily pulling each other, but we get a synergy wherein we're working together, and where we need to consult and we need to ask, or we need to say, let's amend this. We do that in the spirit of working together, so that we are able to achieve something, because this Act should have been implemented, and the department is quiet, and nothing is happening, and there's no sign, like even yourselves use some of the issues. Like, for example, I wanted to engage on the issue of the Cooperative Amendment Agency, which should have started long ago. And until now, there's nothing. So that's our progressive, from ourselves, who says progressive approach. How do you feel about that one, Cheryl?
Mr. Barley, let me put it like this again. As I mentioned, CIPC is not responsible for starting a co-op development agency. However, what I would suggest that you do is that you perhaps send a letter by email to the co-ops unit senior manager in this regard, and that he can then respond and see if he can assist you in this regard.
Who are those?
Sorry?
Sorry, I'm sorry to interject. Can you assist us by the name of the person and the detail of the person that must
Yeah,
be with us?
the person who's basically acting in the position at the moment is Mr. Vuyane Nkohla. I think we can try and type on chat his email, that if you want to send him a letter by email, you can do so. I hope that will help you.
Thank you.
Then our time is basically up, but let's take a few minutes because I know the presentation was a bit long. So if I may ask, the next person is Dion, if he could perhaps ask us his question.
Hello, I had my hand long time. It's Mbonseni. Why am I not?
Yes, my hand was also up long time.
Sorry, is this Lawrence?
No, it's Mboniseni. It's Mr. Ndlovu.
Okay, let him go, I'll wait.
I don't see that. There you are, but there's on our list 2 people before you. I think a few people have been having their hands up for a while.
All right, I'm leaving. I'm not giving the chance.
Sir, you are welcome to put your questions on the chat. If you have any questions, because of time, you are welcome to put it on the chat. My colleagues will assist you with them. But you can ask me your question.
Okay, no, my question basically is short. It's not a Zondo commission where we have to give the long testimony. My question is, since now 2 juristic persons can form a cooperative, does that mean the two PTY LTD companies can form a cooperative?
Yes, that is what it means. They can form a primary cooperative.
Irrespective of how many directors in each company?
Yes, I don't think that the Act refers to the number of directors. It refers to just 2 juristic persons.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then our next person is Lawrence Munyahi.
Thanks. I'll put my hand down. I'm covered, Chair. I spoke earlier.
Okay, thank you very much. If we then can ask Dion, he's been having his hand up as well. Dion, we can't hear you. You must unmute yourself first.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, I have questions regarding amendments. Can I go ahead?
You can tell us your question, yes.
Okay, the company that does our registration refused to give his code for us to do our amendments, and he refused to do our amendments. So we want to do it ourselves. What do we do in that case?
Okay, what I would suggest, do you have a copy of your constitution to start with?
Yes, we've got it.
Okay, that you first check what is the rules to have a special meeting where you can take such a special resolution, because you will have to do things like send out a notice as well as what the changes are you want to do. Then you'll have to meet with members and take a special resolution. And thereafter, you can submit the core 6.1, which we showed earlier in the presentation. And you can then, I think, create your own customer code for the payment. And you can submit the application then to the address we provided for K6. Well, all K forms. Yeah. So that
okay, another question. Yes. And the other thing is that we don't need all the members copy of the ID. Am I right?
Sorry, we can't hear you. Your computer is making a lot of noise. I think you might be having some. A lot of noise going on in the background. We missed the last bit of what you were saying, Dion. If you can just unmute yourself again.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you again.
Okay. I was asking do we need all the members, copies of the members' IDs if we do the amendments and the resolution to send it into the CIPC?
No, you don't send IDs. It's not applicable. Okay. It's not applicable to constitutional amendments.
Is it? Okay. Thank you. And even if we do change directors, we don't need all the IDs, only the resolution and the list of the members available in that meeting?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
That you comply to the requirements for a special resolution. So just check your constitution. It should have the details for special resolution requirements. Percentages of votes, that is, of members.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nay. I appreciate it.
Okay, pleasure. Can I quickly ask the next person on our list is Lorraine, that I can see. Lorraine, if you can please ask your question. Whilst Lorraine is not answering, Mr. Barley, I just want to mention we did post Vuyani Nkogla's email address. So you will find it, the senior manager that's acting for the co-ops unit at the moment. If I can just ask Lorraine again, if she still wants to ask a question, her hand's up. She must please unmute herself and ask a question because we can't hear her. Okay, I think let's move on to the next person. The first name here is Ntandeni. So the person is Ntandeni Mbona. If you can please, yes, ask your question.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me, just receiving a bad signal here. Just wanted to check when you're doing the reservation of the name for the co-op, do you have to add, because I mean the law says that the co-op must have the name must end with Cooperative Limited. So when you're doing the name reservation, do you have to also have to add that, or whatever name you put, they will add it themselves and give you the feedback?
Yes, there's now a very good practical question. Once again, I want to ask, is any of my colleagues here that can tell us on the when you reserve a name, do you have to add the words Cooperative Limited at the end of a name, or do you just give the whatever the name is, the words before the Co-op Limited?
Elma.
Yes.
Yeah, when doing the name, you don't have to add the the last part of Cooperatives Pty Incorporated. The type of form that you fill will determine the type of entity it's going to come out.
Okay, so you do not need to do it.
You don't need to do that.
You can just, Yes, you can just put the part that comes before the co-op limited.
You just put the name. If it's Elma, it's just Elma. When you fill the form of cooperative, it will come out as Elma Cooperatives, Primary Cooperative. If you do incorporated company and you fill the long forms, it will come as Elma Incorporated. If you do PTY, you're gonna fill the PTY forms, then it will come out as a PTY.
Okay.
I
Somebody I see. Yeah, I think it's answering the question if I'm not wrong. I just want to ask, once you've asked your question, can you just put your hand down? It will just mean you click again on the hand, then it will remove you. I still see Lorraine's name. Can she ask a question? She must unmute herself.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Well,
I'd like to know the resignation letter, because it's been long that I've been sending it, but it was sent back that they must sign on the resignation letter, those who resigned on the co-op. So is that everywhere has been done like that or what?
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question about the signatures. Just repeat what you were asking again.
The members that resign on the co-op, there were members that resigned on our co-op, and I had to send the details, their ID copies and resignation letters, but it was rejected that they have to sign on the resignation letter. So that was a delay, but because we never knew that they have to sign, so it was a delay for us. So, but we had to do it end of the day.
Okay, Lorraine, I'm not sure what the answer is. Is there somebody from the unit who will be able to respond for us? I see.
Hi, Elma.
Yes, Mabusi.
Mabusi here. Yes, the person, whoever is resigning, must attach their signature to the resignation letter. Yes.
Okay, so they must add their name to the resignation letter. They must sign.
Sign, yes.
Okay. So it's not just an ID copy, it's their signature as well.
Yes, you can't write a letter without signing it, because signature means you agree to the contents of the letter or the resolution.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Lorraine, I hope that assists you. And then, okay, I'm going to take our last question. There is a question from, and forgive me, I'm not going to pronounce the name very well, but Makwakle. Please help me with your name's pronunciation as well. And you're welcome to ask your question. Just unmute yourself. Makwakle. Your hand is up. You can ask your question. Thank you. You're welcome. You are unmuted. You can just ask your question. We unfortunately not hearing you. Okay, we have a problem hearing you, though you seem to be unmuted. So unfortunately, we won't be able to answer your question. Okay, just hold on a second. Okay. With that, I want to close the session, but before I do so, I want to remind you, we will send you the link for our survey, and we ask that you complete a survey for us. We're interested in your opinion about the webinar. There will be more co-op webinars, I'm sure, in the future, as well as about K2. So once again, please remember to check our website on a regular basis for any notices about any developments, as well as any webinars. And the link is also posted just now again on the chat function as well, if you want to copy it from there for the survey. We really appreciate the time you spend with us, and we're very hopeful that it answered perhaps a few of your questions and that you learned a few things today. I know many people already know a lot about co-ops, but then there's always new people who really are interested but know nothing. So we're trying to that's why we're trying to give our basic information. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, but thank you very much for joining us, and we hope you will do so again in the future, and may you have a very good day. I'm closing the session. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Let's go.